Okay, guys. Wow, that is. Oh, he broke the base. Um, is this working? It is working. Hi, everyone. We got a lot to talk about. Hopefully, I don't ramble too much. Sorry, get a little distracted here. My son did rug this off of the desk, and I should probably check the voice quality. I guess I will after I'm done recording. We have a lot to talk about, though. There's a lot going on in this market. And at the same time, not much at all. Weird dichotomy, right? Well, let's talk about it broadly. SPX is breaking out. Even I don't like the price action here. It's seems like we probably want to chop sideways a bit longer and form a stronger base, but you are getting some momentum confirmations here from the market. The 2 days also giving some confirmations. It's this very like being drug across the finish line type of move. You see that you seen the video with the marathon runner, and she like passes out just before the finish line, and the second place, runner stops and picks her up and drags her to the finish line. That's how this market feels into the end of the year. Like the Bulls will say, "Oh, it's great because there's been an improvement in breadth." Okay, there's been an improvement in breadth. Look at that. Look at this. There is a nice sea of green, kind of broadly throughout the market, right? Even though the big tech stocks are taking a breather, especially Microsoft in the headline. The Netflix on the headline. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. But I look at that and I'm like, I want more. I want a bigger dip. And I just don't think we get it. Maybe we get it next year. I feel like we're gonna have a December like last year. I just don't see it yet. And I hope it's not some atypical event that catches us off guard. I'm not the best positioned for a sudden pullback, I'll be honest. Other than the fact that I do have like a ton of cash. And I am starting to swing some positions again. Because we are getting some confirmation. Small caps are confirming here. It's, again, not the healthiest move. And even in the intraday, it's not the healthiest moves. Like if we look at SPY here, I mean, if you're, and I'm in, on Monday, I was talking to futures traders about this. If you're an orb trader where you set like an opening range and then you trade it in that range, you've had a freaking amazing week because you can just inverse this thing every time it's over. It gets too extended from your bullish 15-minute EMA. It gets too extended, retraces, too extended, retraces, too extended, dumps back down. Now it's too extended the downside, bounce back up, too extended the upside, down, too extended downside, up, too extended. You see what I'm saying? It's great. I'm not a big zero DTE guy, but I have been trading a bit more of those over the past few weeks because honestly, I'm just not too big of a fan on swinging here. Haven't been at least until today, because I was looking for after that zombie buying into Thanksgiving that we would see some weakness come back and we'd see some pullbacks. Well, I got a little more confident today, as confident as you can be given the fact that I still think we need one more down move before we really solidify price action, especially just from how unhealthy the flows are. And another thing to be mindful of is, my RVOL, RVOL is calculated. You can set it to whatever parameters you want for the amount of days, but it takes an average based on recent days. Typical, I think it defaults at 14 days on TradingView. But it takes the average amount of volume over the last 14 days and then tells you what it's like today. And if you are paying attention, your relative volume, I run a 21 day, has been awful comparative to what it's been over the last 3 weeks. Like the volume is just dying as the liquidity is dying. The end of QT, we know that interest rates are going to come down. At least that's what the CME predictions are telling us. We've got the administration, Trump says he knows what Fed chair he wants. It'll give him the cuts he wants to take this to zero. We're extending mortgage rates. We're trying to give relief to the consumers, keep the housing market afloat. We're trying to also keep the auto market afloat versus speculation on the extensions on how long those terms can be. And then you're getting the stimulus checks, no income tax, how many of these things happen, who knows? And it's probably just a overflow of information the market doesn't know what to do with. And it seemed like everyone went on a holiday, but still volume isn't coming back. You would think if the market was super bullish and excited about all this, I would see relative volume. I would see new participants coming into this market. That's the way to really think about it. Your relative volume is higher than it has been the last 14, 21, 30, whatever you want to set that metric at. I wouldn't go any shorter than 14, but if that is over 1, it tells you there's a larger amount of volume than there has been over that whatever data set you're referencing to. And that tells you that there's likely new participants or new money coming into it. Okay. And that tells you that there's a certain momentum in there through the raw data, not just using like a EMA metric or looking at price action. I like that. It gives me confidence. That confidence has been non-existent for a long time. It's actually just been steadily dying. I think even on the Microsoft news, we didn't even see that significant of a momentum bounce. You saw a pretty big move because it happened in the pre-market. So big move down, and then more sellers start coming into the open, and then there's the nice, steady, persistently high amount of shares being traded. This will be an interesting for a day 2 play. Now that we've kind of set key ranges to see if we're going to break to the upside or downside from here, based off this range. But a move like this, your relative volume spikes. You set a nice big range. You've set your extremes on the RSI, so we've set an extreme high, extreme low there. So now this becomes a much easier day 2 to look for a continuation, depending on which way it breaks, to look for. So that'll be on my radar. But let's take a pause there. The news was that Microsoft is having trouble hitting sales goals when it comes to getting corporations to adopt AI agents. Okay. You would think, okay, I will say that's got to at least definitely make OpenAI investors kind of shaking their boots a little bit, right? Because OpenAI's true differentiation from Gemini is the AI agents. But Microsoft's having trouble getting people to adopt that, while Gemini kind of takes the lead, right? I thought that would be a bit spookier than the market, but the market kind of ate it up. Is that a true reaction from the market, or is it zombie passive flows creating yet more distortions in the market? I think the latter. And quite honestly, I think that the market isn't broadly aware of the information that most corporations are actually using Chinese models. They're not even using US models, because even though it's slightly worse, it's so much cheaper that they don't care. Especially in the startup phase. If you're a new startup, you're not going to pay ridiculous prices from Claude. You're going to be like, okay, I can get the DeepSeek model, train it on our data, use a few prompts, and set it up to like fact check itself, or just do the fact checks through another AI and just use a few tokens from that one, and kind of complete my goals for a lot cheaper than if I used one of the US models, So I don't think the market is aware of that, or it is, and it doesn't matter, because passive buying is so extreme right now that a lot of the movements in the market just don't make sense, honestly. The other thing is that there's so much money piled into AI and tech stories, or that I think is getting overbought into value names. Like I'm short Walmart here; it's not working, and I've actually slowly closed out of this. I've closed actually most of my original position for very minor losses, but like this is pretty extreme overbought levels for Walmart. Nas caught flat-footed on Google, but if we look at the weekly on Walmart, we usually next week I think you're gonna come take a dive. I'm looking for some better signs of weakness. I thought we had some uh on Monday and actually kind of near the end of last week. So I'm looking for some better signs of weakness before this thing takes a nice retracement. I think I can collect a good 7 points of downside, or maybe even a bit more. I'm just waiting for the realization that the Black Friday sales weren't that great. Let me be clear: the sales were great, the volume was terrible, which tells you that there is definitely weakness in the consumer, right? If you hit all-time sales but you sold less stuff, what does that mean? It means that there's probably more inflation and prior price hikes than what CPI and stuff has been indicating, and that the inflation is persistent. It's not gone. And keep in mind everything that Trump wants to do. We're gonna eliminate income tax. We're gonna hand out checks to everyone. We're gonna everything he's doing to stimulate the stock market and to stimulate the economy is inflationary. Inflation is coming. Um, so like gold and silver, everyone thinks that that's a bubble. It's hard to imagine that doesn't go higher. In a scenario where we're seeing sectors of the economy definitely in a recession, but the AI story is keeping it broadly afloat. Um, but it's still overall causing a slowing of growth. Um, that's deflationary. That's where gold performs best. Is it going to go higher? I don't know how it doesn't. That's like your ideal. If gold manages to not go higher than that, I don't think you got safety anywhere. And uh Paul Tudor Jones was also talking about this. You guys don't know, the internet's obsessed with Michael Burry, who somehow managed to not beat the market for 12 years, which honestly is probably as impressive as someone beating the market for 5 years in a row. But probably as statistically abnormal that this guy didn't even get lucky one year where he beat the market. It's like net returns are negative versus the benchmark. That's pretty insane, quite honestly. You didn't even get lucky, dude? Like one year? Like really? That's rough. And so Paul Tudor Jones, on the other hand, is an actual legend. Consistency through the roof. Crazy. Crazy. And he thinks you buy NASDAQ, you buy Bitcoin, and you load up commodities. I don't think I see anything too appealing in commodities, but I've been kind of like keeping an eye on them. And then I like taking some shorts here, like I talked about, because I am looking for source from the rug, but I just don't see it yet. Things look good now. What has been exciting here, and Discord members know because we had some fun today. Like I bought Kit on the news that the administration wants to make robotics a top priority. They want to send this thing to the moon. I fully plan on doing a Substack write up. Um, we'll see if I have time for that tonight. I should though. Um, yeah, I need a break from the other research I've been doing. I've still got a big video coming out, and big Substack pair with it. But I'm like gathering all my sources and organizing that and making sure I don't look stupid. But and so I'm loving those robotic names. Kit looks really great. There's so much volume pumping into this thing, and there was a bunch of shorts here. They're all getting squeezed. Digging deeper into the company, it also looks really interesting. I bought some calls on RR as well. And I need to do a review on some of these bigger names: ROK, TER, OST, OUST. I need to look at RBE, ARBE. I want to look at again. And then also set up. So, keep an eye on RR here because RR could do some nutty things, especially with this daily trend line here. As we come up and test it, we're real close. We're real close on really strong volume today after that announcement with some good momentum confirmations that the bottom's definitely in. That looks really good. Yes, is it a bit extended here? Could it take some pretty major retracements? Yes. Could it also just freaking moon rocket from here and do another day like it did today? Yes, that's small cap life. Um, they don't, large cap rules don't apply to small caps. They could do wild shit. Um, they do still feel gravity, but it's not in the same way. Um, and then Robo, I went ahead and set up some Robo calls as well on that announcement. If if they're like we can keep trying to pump AI and AI is not doing anything, or if they're coming to the realization that AI may need a breather, and they start pounding the table hard on robotics, I am so here for it. And so are Tesla investors. Again, I didn't really chase the Tesla move this morning. It was interesting over the previous day's highs. And I actually think where it's at right now is actually the easier trade. If you get over today's highs, it's easier to chase it tomorrow than it was to play the move today, especially with the setup in the market. Whereas with the smaller robotics companies, I thought it was a whole lot easier. I'm actually curious how the relative volume finished today. It was over one. It was pretty good actually. Um, yeah, and it was persistently good all day. So if you caught that, good job. It's a pretty good move. You should be happy about that. You probably didn't make more than I did on these robotic names, but you did good. And I'm looking for a robo to also give clarification that we've kind of set a low here. So unlike the rest of the market, I think I actually got the move I wanted from here. And now I want to see if we can get over 72. First move over 70 should give us a straight shot to 72. And then we'll see. Are we going to break out of the triple top, or is this going to be like Bitcoin where we actually managed to deny a triple top? If we deny the triple top, I'm out. I'm out so fast on a denial of that triple top. Maybe give it 3 days. If the first day fails, yeah, you got 2 more days, and I've got a tight stop from there. Type of scenario. But if we can break through that, 90 should be no problem. It probably goes way higher over the course of 2026, and I'll try to ride that as best I can. Because I do think out of the announcements that we've gotten from the administration, that one is probably the most believable, that we're going to really push hard for that. And there's probably what I want to write about in my Substack article is like who's the most likely to get the investment as Trump puts together his national security portfolio, right? We've invested in I can't even remember what lithium company was. I know it was a Canadian company, which was asinine, but you had MP and Intel, where it took stakes in, and a few other companies. And I think they're going to add a robotics company to that, pick a winner in there as well. So we'll see how that continues to pan out. And if we do get a big winner, what that even looks like. I think it'd be, RR is really interesting, or SYM would be really interesting. But I think there's a political misstep if you go for those because it's going to be like Trump wants you to lose your job. Sounds like an easy headline, and it sounds like something they'll avoid. So, you might want to lean towards drones or the more speculative companies, people that are in like the very early stages, like Boston Dynamics or Tesla, with where Optimus is. If they pick someone that isn't Tesla, watch out for Tesla. Because right now Tesla doesn't trade like it has a lot of competition, but Tesla actually does have a lot of competition. And so and maybe I'm wrong. Granted, I'm not saying that as a Tesla hater. I'm saying that as someone who's Tesla's still my number one position. So, but I have a lot of breathing room on my averages, and I'm sitting on a lot of profits that I've already taken off the table. So, I feel a little bit more comfy to just kind of see how that pans out. And I don't kind of want to overreact to things that haven't even happened yet. I feel that's my intuition is telling me that you could have a dive there. It could be a rug event in the future. When we're talking about crypto looks really good. Bitcoin set a higher high after setting a higher low. I mean, kind of hard to see on this chart, but if I pull this out of that volume indicator, you can see for sure set a higher low and then a higher high. It looks like it wants a continuation to the upside. It's looking good. Ethereum's looking even better. The Ethereum's price action's a whole lot healthier as well. And actually, we should zoom out a bit. Right, like a nice steady decline. There's some moves, but they get the gap fills, then they get the confirmations on the way down, right? So, and I wonder is the 2 day, 2 days still giving healthy confirmation. The monthly here is a bit spooky, but it defended the bullish EMA, which you want to see. So, it's not like anything that's like completely clapped it. It's still overall in a bullish trend, as is Bitcoin, which Bitcoin a while ago was looking so technically weak. I couldn't believe it bounced. But here it's kind of getting confirmation. So I think you want to kind of test 100K. And then we'll see what happens from there. But like I'm long BM&R. We locked in some profits, but I think we're going to get 100K. And then based on the way this is setting up, and based on the fact that Paul Tudor Jones came out and said that he likes Bitcoin, I would not be surprised if this thing just turns on that and actually gets a sustained rally. That's basically the equivalent of Buffett being like, "I bought Bitcoin," Except I think to me it means more. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think the low's quite in. I think you got one more rug, but I'll ride it in the short term, and I've already locked in some profits. I'll let it stop me on the rest, I guess. So, yeah, there's a lot going on. And I think the big storyline is I think robotics is going to take off and have a continuation. And I agree with Paul Tudor Jones. I've been watching commodities and nothing's looked like, I'm really tempted to get back, especially in some of these nuclear trades as well. I am. If I talk about this in detail, I guess I'm not going to post it to X. I guess I won't. I guess I'll post it on the Substack. I won't post it to X. But I am looking for LEU, a position here. They're pretty much a monopoly, and as far as nuclear fuel goes, they had a substantial pullback as well. Now keep in mind, companies like Oklo are trying to pivot, create new fuel sources and new methodologies for how they source that, but they haven't been successful. They haven't even proved that it works, right? Everything's just on paper, and they even got denied because the paperwork doesn't look right. So right now LEU is king, and here it's starting to give some confirmations of that as well. I would prefer to wait for this thing to actually break over 285 before I take my position. But I would like to put it in the long term if it kind of can confirm that, we set a low here, coming and testing this bullish EMA on the weekly. Maybe you've got one more move to the downside, maybe, but I should see either that move happen or the breakout. So, just move this just a little bit, but, before we get that downside move. So I'm kind of watching that to take that next position. But and same, like I would like, XOM, I wouldn't mind buying this on an actual breakout. Even just over this most recent high, I think it could be a bit interesting. I am kind of watching it like once a week. But I got some long-term alerts here. Even if we see something like a breakdown of this trend line here, let's say we get some sort of move that kind of rugs us to the downside, I'd actually buy that dip and look for a quick V-shaped reversal out of the hole. I like that right now. If TAN, we kind of are seeing that sort of rug event, but I haven't really seen. Actually, no, this is a pretty clean trend line actually, but we haven't actually come and tested this bullish EMA in a bit, and this was probably a good dip to buy. But I actually want to trade this thing just with some options, maybe take some option leaps this year. I'm not really sure if I want to hold solar for longer than a year. I think I just want to take it as a tactical trade. It's going to be easiest with options over 53.68. If you're in the position, I don't think you had a reason to get out. Over 44 was the original entry that we talked about earlier this year. And I'm not even sure if I took it. I might have taken it on some shorter term positions, but I don't think I swung it. I think I might have been trying to play stuff like in phase, which never got a bounce out of the hole. But keep an eye on this one because this thing I think is really cheap here. It probably wants to turn around. We gave a bearish report. By we, I mean Monty, who's part of the MBT team. We've written about him before. Gave a bearish report of like I don't. It was in here. I don't want to say exactly because I don't exactly remember, but around 190, 180, it was time to get out to avoid this thing like the plague. That was a while ago. Here, both him and I are pretty bullish. I'm just waiting for signs of life before I put this in my long term, but I think I likely will. I might be tempted to be a little lazy about it and take tan, but First Solar as well is looking pretty decent here. It's doing a little bit of a relaxing. But I think that if you get a nice rug down to like 230 or something, I think that might be something I want to buy and look for a continuation. I think solar is way more interesting here than it was in like 21 or 22 when everyone loved it. 2021, everyone was running for the hills in 2022 and 2023. But I like that it's beaten down and ignored, and energy is going to be in huge demand, and prices are probably going to come up. And I think that could even cause a resurgence in residential solar, even if you don't have the same tax subsidies that propel it from like a fundamental standpoint. I think it won't matter because energy is going to be in such high demand, which is why the commodities are interesting because you're probably going to have a ton of inflation. So. There's a bunch of other unique names that I haven't mentioned yet, but I'll cover in the Discord. So over like the next month, not tomorrow or anything. It's a lot to go through, and I got a few different research projects I'm kind of running at once. I gotta complete some of these and knock them out of the way. But I hope you found this helpful. It's been a while since we talked. And I got some big newsletter projects that I'm working on. And then I think I want to do some sort of end of the year promo for the Discord, but I'm not sure what event. I know I want to do some sort of giveaway soon. So stay tuned for that. We're going to do something for the end of the year. It might not be until January, but we're going to do something. So if you're a member, get excited. That's all I got. God bless. Have a great night. See you tomorrow. I'm really glad trading's starting to pick up again. Monday and Tuesday. Sat on my hands. And my son just woke up from his nap. So that's my time. I'm clocking out. God bless.